I stood there, in the bright space illuminated by yellow lights, tightly holding the microphone, shaking it slightly as if to reassure myself. My eyes scanned the crowd, laughing and chatting happily, the air filled with congratulatory words and warm hugs from friends and close family. I could feel the love and care that everyone had for me throughout this baby shower party I had dreamed of for so long. This was the happiest moment of my life, as I was pregnant for the first time, awaiting my firstborn child. Everything was perfect, nothing could ruin this joy. Until a scream shattered the atmosphere. A person like you doesn't deserve to raise this child. I will name it, and I will teach it how to grow up. The voice of Barbara, my mother-in-law, rang out sharply. Suddenly, all sounds around me seemed to fade. The entire room went silent, and everyone's eyes turned toward her. Her voice was not only loud but also filled with anger, like a clear declaration of war. The atmosphere instantly became heavy, tense to the point where I could feel every beat of my heart. I couldn't believe my ears. Everything seemed to collapse beneath my feet, and I felt as if a heavy stone was pressing on my chest, making it hard to breathe. My eyes desperately searched for support from the friends around me, but all I got were surprised, confused glances. No one dared to speak up. Barbara stood there, in the middle of the crowd, her face flushed red, her eyes sharp like knives, looking at me with undisguised contempt. I could feel the coldness, the cruelty in her gaze, as if she wanted to tear apart every hope and joy I had. Her words felt like arrows aimed directly at my heart. The feeling of being insulted, belittled, made it impossible for me to stand still. "What are you, that you have the right to name my son?" Her voice continued, becoming more venomous. "I am his mother, and I am the one who decides. You don't deserve to be the mother of this child." I looked at her, my heart tightening. I couldn't understand why she came here to ruin the party I had spent so long preparing. All I wanted was a warm, loving celebration to share this happiness with everyone. But Barbara, the one I had tried so hard to maintain harmony with for so many years, turned out to be hostile and arrogant at this event. Anger surged within me, but there was also a deep sadness. I couldn't imagine that the mother-in-law I had always tried to please could behave like this, even in the most sacred moment of my life. But then, something inside me awakened. I knew that this time, I could not remain silent. This was the moment I had to stand up, to protect my right to be a mother, to protect my little family. No one had the right to hurt me like this. With a deep breath, I gripped the microphone in my hand, my gaze sharp and determined. "You have no right to decide anything in this matter," I said, my voice calm but full of strength. "This is my child and my husband's, and we have chosen a name for it. You have no right to interfere in our decision." Although my words seemed lost in the tense air, inside, for the first time, I truly felt like a mother. Barbara had always been the classic type of mother-in-law that anyone could recognize from the first meeting. She had a strong, controlling personality and always believed that everything in the family should follow her wishes. Especially when it came to the baby I was carrying. She not only wanted to participate, but also believed that any decision regarding the baby should go through her first. From naming the child, choosing schools, to how to raise it, everything had to have her approval. She believed she was the only grandmother and had the right to decide everything regarding her grandchild. The day I got pregnant, Barbara did not receive this news from her son, David, but from one of my friends. This made her feel abandoned, as though she had been excluded from the family circle. This feeling hit her like a slap in the face. She felt not only betrayed, but also disrespected. Why wasn't she the first to know about this good news? Why did an outsider know before her? One ordinary morning, when the whole family was gathered around the dining table, the light from the window streamed in, making the space warm and pleasant. But that peaceful moment didn't last long. Barbara, my mother-in-law, sat across from me, her eyes showing no attempt to hide her frustration, but she still tried to remain calm. Suddenly, unable to contain the anger rising within her, she looked at me, her gaze sharp as a knife, as if she wanted to pierce through me. "Aren't you the one who should have been the first to know this news?" Her voice rang out cold, full of insinuation and disdain. "Do you know that I am the grandmother of this child? What gives you the right to decide everything?" I stood frozen, silent, unable to say anything, only feeling my heart ache. Her words were like a knife cutting into my heart, and I couldn't understand why she treated me like this. I was just a wife, trying my best to get along with the family, but every time I encountered her, I felt like I was being pushed out of the family circle, as if there was no place for me. Barbara continued, her voice not less sharp. This baby is my grandchild, not yours. You're just the mother of it. You have no right to interfere with anything concerning it. Each of her words felt like a stab to my heart. I tried to stay calm, not wanting to escalate the situation, but the truth was, I felt degraded, as if I had no worth in my own family. The things she said hurt me so deeply that I couldn't speak a word, only sitting silently, suppressing the emotions inside me. That evening, when David was watching TV, I gently walked over to him, trying to keep my voice soft, not wanting to make a big deal out of it. Do you think your mom is too controlling? I feel like I have no right to decide anything in this family. Every time I meet your mom, I feel like I'm being degraded, like I have no value. David looked up at me, his gaze somewhat tired, as though he had grown too used to these arguments. I know, but your mom isn't the type of person who changes easily. I don't want you to have to endure this, but I don't know what to do anymore. I felt a pang of hurt. So what do you think about your mom deciding everything for me? Even this baby shower, she invited herself without asking me at all. David was silent, his eyes looking down, thinking for a long while before he finally spoke. I just wanted everything to go smoothly. My mom organized the baby shower because she wanted to make peace with you, and I thought it would be a way to improve the situation. I nodded, but inside, I didn't feel reassured at all. I knew this wasn't about making peace. It was a trap. Just as I had predicted, when the day of the baby shower arrived, Barbara turned the event into her own stage, making everything about her and leaving nothing for me. When the party started, I tried to keep everything under control, smiling and chatting with friends and family, but Barbara's presence made the atmosphere heavy. She didn't ask me a single thing about the party, choosing the theme herself, decorating everything with pictures of her son. Every corner of the room had David's presence, from family photos to congratulatory messages written about him. The crowd couldn't help but notice that this wasn't a celebration for my baby, but a party for David and his mother. I sat silently, trying not to react, but when Barbara asked me to sit in the back row, saying, "Don't disturb the VIP guests of the in-laws' house," my heart shattered. It felt as though I was being pushed out, no longer the center of the event that was supposed to be mine, leaving me deeply hurt. And then, the climax of the situation came. Barbara snatched the microphone from my hand without a word of apology and shouted loudly, "The baby's name will be William Harold after his great-grandfather's surname. That's a tradition in this family." When I tried to object, saying that my husband and I had already chosen another name, Barbara lunged toward me, grabbing my hand and yelling, "What are you to have the right to decide the name for my child?" Her voice was not only angry, but also full of hatred, as if I had no right to live in this family. The pain grew even stronger, and I could no longer stand still. This was the first time I clearly felt that I could not let Barbara continue to insult me and my family any longer. The scene in the party room suddenly became chaotic in just a few seconds. Barbara's scream was like a storm, sweeping through the air, causing everything around to seem to stop. The guests, who had been joyful and happy, could no longer keep their smiles. All eyes turned to her, but no one dared to speak. Some people stood frozen, confused, not knowing what to do. A few others began quietly packing up their things, leaving without a word, avoiding the tension that filled the air. I felt my face burning, both embarrassed and angry. Looking around, I saw a few close friends, the ones who always stood by me, but they just stood there, watching. Then Sarah, my best friend, walked over. The worried look on her face made me realize that things had gone too far. Sarah turned her back to the crowd, took out her phone, and dialed 911. She whispered very softly, just one sentence. "Someone is endangering a pregnant woman. Please come immediately." She didn't want to make me more worried, but the protection from a friend at that moment was truly important. She couldn't let Barbara continue ruining the party and possibly harm my health. Less than a few minutes later, the sound of sirens echoed from afar. Everyone jumped when the police car pulled up right in front of the door. A few police officers entered, looking serious, their eyes fixed on Barbara. It felt like a gentle wave passed through me, and though I was a little scared, at least things were no longer out of control. The police began taking statements from the witnesses in the room. My friends, though reluctant, still spoke up to confirm what had happened. Each statement was a strong blow to Barbara's insulting words. One of the officers, his face cold, looked straight at Barbara and said, "You need to leave the event immediately." As the police approached, Barbara turned to look at everyone, her face red with anger. She refused to submit, and with a defiant look, she shouted, "You'll regret it when this child grows up without me. He will never know the wonderful grandmother I am." Her screaming echoed like a curse, but no one in the crowd stopped to respond to her. The police continued with their actions. One of them gently guided Barbara towards the door. She resisted, but couldn't fight against the law. After a brief struggle, she was escorted out, but her angry words still reverberated in the air. I stood there, watching the figure of my mother-in-law disappear, a feeling of loneliness and exhaustion swelling within me. My heart was still racing from the tension, but deep inside, I felt an immense relief. I knew that although this was painful, I had done the right thing. I couldn't let Barbara, the one who had hurt me for so long, continue to control my life. I took a deep breath, my hands slightly trembling, but I stood firm, not backing down. I looked around and saw the sympathetic gazes from my friends, from those who had witnessed everything. These were the people I would trust for the rest of my life. And in that moment, I realized one thing clearly. I didn't have to be afraid, because my family, though small, was the most important thing. "This is my family," I thought to myself, my gaze determined, "and I will protect it." After that intense incident, a big change occurred in David's heart. He sat silently beside me throughout the night, his hand gently touching mine, but his eyes no longer held the tiredness, no longer the hesitation they once did. Throughout our years of living together, I had become accustomed to our quiet conversations, but this time, something had changed in him. "You're right," David said, his voice deep and determined. "His mother. She's too toxic, and there's no fixing her anymore." These words left me speechless. I looked at him, silently, but I could feel my heart shattering inside. David, the one who had always been caught between me and his mother, the one I had always tried to get along with, was now saying these words. Suddenly, I felt a sense of relief, like a rainstorm after a long, hot day. "I won't let this continue," David continued, his gaze firm. "We can't live under her manipulation anymore. His mother can't keep ruining our happiness like this. I've decided to cut all contact with her." His words were like a door opening, a liberation I had never imagined. It felt like a heavy burden being lifted. I looked into his eyes, knowing that finally, he had chosen me and our little family. Not his mother, but me, us. "We're moving out, changing our phone numbers. We won't let her know anything about the baby." His voice was certain and unwavering. "We need to protect our family." At that moment, I could feel the determination in David's words. Though there was a bit of regret, I knew this was the right decision. I couldn't let Barbara continue to control our lives. And in that moment, I felt like a real mother. The feeling of being a woman who had the power to decide everything for her family without being manipulated by anyone. That whole day, we began packing everything up. No arguments, no debates. We quietly but firmly did everything we could to leave the stifling atmosphere that Barbara had created. Our house gradually became emptier, but it was filled with hope for a new future. Each item was packed, each memory was preserved, but this time, we weren't taking along any of the worries or tensions. After moving out and changing our phone numbers, I felt like I had started a new chapter in my life. The feeling of freedom and relief was overwhelming. No one could invade our lives anymore. No more unwanted calls from Barbara, no more contemptuous remarks. We had protected our little family, and I would raise our child the way I wanted. When our baby turned 1 month old, I decided to hold a simple and cozy celebration. I only invited those who truly cared for our little family. Close friends, those who had always stood by me throughout this time. No one mentioned Barbara, and no one felt her absence. The atmosphere in the celebration was light and filled with love. Laughter from friends echoed, and warm congratulations were shared. I sat there, watching my son play in my arms, feeling like a true mother. No more impositions, no more manipulation from anyone. For the first time throughout my pregnancy, I felt like I had taken control of the decisions for my family. That feeling was amazing, like a victory for myself. Who do you think is truly selfish in this story? The pregnant mother or the grandmother trying to seize control? Have you ever witnessed a family event being destroyed by toxic control? Share your story. If you believe every family needs to be protected from manipulation, even if it's from a mother or mother-in-law, like, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss out on more emotional family justice stories like this one.